Hey guys, we're live. It's Monday, start of a new week, March 4th, 2024. Um, Hope everyone is off to a good start. I am so far. Um, I actually brought something up. Uh, Berdazzle, hello, how are you? Nice to see you. I appreciate you joining me when I pop in. Um, this is more of, I know you were here um, yesterday evening when I did my live read for my blog. Um, Afternoon I do more of a freestyle, talk about whatever comes up, and I never exactly know what's going to come up. Although I have two things in mind. Uh, Reading a book, I came across a quote from Viktor Frankl in his book Man's Search for Meaning, which of course is a seminal classic of um, literally finding meaning and worth and a reason to live, worth in life itself, through the worst circumstances imaginable. And honestly, there are no worse circumstances than the Holocaust. Viktor Frankl was a psychologist um, who was imprisoned during World War II. He was placed in a couple concentration camps, and I believe Auschwitz was the last, and he was scheduled to be executed right when, after being worked nearly to death and seeing the most horrendous um, suffering imaginable, and finally being uh, called to be executed when the camps were liberated and he was saved. And he talked about how when they got out and they were walking and they came upon a field of flowers, absolutely beautiful, but they couldn't really find any joy in it whatsoever because they didn't yet feel human. They were so, to human eyes, they were treated literally worse than the animals. Um, and even after being liberated, being saved, they couldn't find joy in flowers, in a field of flowers. Our friend Odom is here saying hi. Odom, how are you? Um, a few days later, though, when things were being processed a little bit more, um, him and a group of other people came upon another field full of wildflowers. And this time, they were overcome by the beauty because they were starting to feel human again. They were reborn. Um, uh, Amron land, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Free Palestine. Um, and I appreciate the comment. Um, and Viktor Frankl said when they started being overwhelmed by that beauty, finally feeling human again, a refrain kept going on in his mind, and it is a take on the Psalms. And I need to look up which Psalm it actually is. That, um, and again, this isn't the direct Psalm, but it is. It was his take on it in the moment. I called to the Lord from my narrow prison, and he answered me in the freedom of space. And he kept saying that over and over again. Um, and that seems to me such a telling quote, such a such a cry that when you call from a narrow prison, when you call to God from a narrow prison, the answer itself is space, the freedom of space. And that is our interior truth. That's what Zen, that's what um, yoga, every school of Buddhism teach, is that we find our own interior space. And that's what the Lord answered with, our interior space. The key to freedom isn't to escape and out of prison, but to have that interior freedom, that interior space that sets us free. So when Viktor Frankl, sorry, I called to the Lord from my narrow prison, and he answered me in the freedom of space. Absolutely beautiful. I've come across other versions of that, and it's a wonderful book, Man's Search for Meaning. It's a harrowing book, but the fact that someone can survive that, and not only survive, but afterwards thrive and find that he has the capacity to forgive those that treated him in such a manner, those that killed his friends, his family, his fellow prisoners, his countrymen, um, an attempt to wipe out an entire race, and he was able to forgive. It's a lesson for all of us. Reminds me of the quote from Mark Twain, or attributed to Mark Twain, that forgiveness is the fragrance released by a violet upon the heel that has crushed it. Always found that amazingly beautiful. And it points to the significance of forgiveness. It isn't for the benefit of the person or whoever it was who hurt us. Viktor Frankl didn't forgive the Nazis for their benefit, but he knew that even now released, that if he harbored any type of hatred towards anyone, that he was still in prison, that they had gotten the best of him, and he wanted to be free, truly free, not just physically and not just psychologically, but emotionally and spiritually as well. And the only way to true freedom is through forgiveness. Odom Somstead says, great information. It is. It's interesting information. I can't talk. What do you need? Hold on, please.
Yeah. Jen's going to call you or send you a message around 3, I think. And you can put that rocking chair out on the front step. She needs to borrow it for a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. So that quote's been playing in my mind for the past few days. It really, and I've been looking at different versions of the actual psalm. The psalm is 118, 118.5. And again, there's different versions of it. When hard pressed, I cried to the Lord. He brought me into a spacious place, which is very similar to what Viktor Frankl was saying. As well, the whole theme of Genesis has been playing through my mind lately, particularly because of its relationship, to pranayama, which is breath work, using the breath to not just for the physiology of breath work, which is countless benefits: lowering blood pressure, lowering your heart rate, decreasing stress, lowering inflammation, helping us sleep, helping us wake up. You can use the breath, the most available tool that we have, to change our energetic state, to go from the parasympathetic nervous state, which is the rest and digest, to bringing ourselves up to the sympathetic, which is the fight and flight, and then bringing ourselves back down. And we can do that in the course of just several different styles of breath in the space of 10 minutes, if we choose. As well as easing anxiety, stress, you name it, and you can address it with the breath. But more so, it's termed breath work in Sanskrit is termed pranayama, which is the subtleness of the breath, the subtle body, which is a pranic body. Pranayama, prana being the essence of life. And reading Genesis, And let's see. You got to excuse me for the Googling. The breath of God in Genesis, that we're literally talking about prana. When God took the elements, which are the common ingredients of earth itself, literally taking clay, literally taking mud, and breathing life into it. We're talking about prana. We're talking about the subtle energy of life itself being breathed into clay to become human. Without that breath, without prana, it's just clay. At the same time, prana is inherent within the earth itself, because everything was created from that pranic force. Let's see. I am not super up to date on the on Genesis. So if anyone has anything, their own view on on that creation story, the story of creation itself, to me, it's one of the most beautiful parts of the Bible, just the creation of earth itself. And it doesn't in any way, if you read it the right way, it doesn't take away any science behind any of the modern science whatsoever. Our friend Destiny Forever Walks, PhD, is here. Hello, Eric. Blessings to you on this lovely Monday. How are you? I'm doing well. And you know what? It is a lovely Monday. I was looking out the window to make sure it was still a lovely Monday. It is close. It's getting close to 70 degrees outside. I think we might make it to 68 or so. And I was out twice this morning, one before the sun came up, but it's getting close. As I wrote yesterday, we gain 3 minutes of sunlight each morning up until mid-May, maybe late May, and then we start slowing down and we gain 2 minutes. And that goes on until I think around July, and then it starts to reverse and we start to lose some time, just a little bit, all the way up until the solstice. And so I'm still getting out at the same time, which is just a little bit before 5 o'clock in the morning. By the time I'm done my walk, I'm seeing the sky just starting to light a little bit. So I'm getting that ambient light hitting my eyes. But with this weekend coming up, again, we'll keep losing 3 minutes. And then this weekend, with the time change, I'll actually be out right at sunrise, which will be a nice change of pace. Although it'll also bring out more people. And surprisingly for me this winter, being out before the sunrise, I fully embraced roaming in the darkness. And for me, that's also a metaphor of embracing my own shadow. And of course, when you embrace your shadow, when you fully integrate the shadow through your life, then you become whole. It's the whole purpose of recognizing and working with the shadow, is becoming whole. I think Carl Jung had some quite a bit of information. Well, I know he had quite a bit of information on the shadow. He was actually one of the forebearers of presenting, although in shamanic practices, it's been around for since the dawn of time, forever, um, of integrating our darkness throughout our lives so that we see ourselves um, as whole. Because the shadow isn't just the things that we dislike about ourselves so that we're afraid to admit, or things that have happened in the past that we've tucked away. Um, let's see, Destiny says, look like everyone left, they may be in the bushes. Yeah, it's been quiet for a little bit. So she's going to refresh, Destiny's going to refresh the computer. I don't think you're missing any comments. So let's keep talking about, we're going to go back to Genesis, but I also want to talk about the shadow. Odom says he's still here, listening at work. I figured that you were still close by. So I'm jumping from subject to subject here. I didn't actually finish. We think of it as the dark side of us that we don't want to bring the light. Who wants our darkness to show? Then everyone will see that we have this dark part. It does, which means that we're not owning our own humanity. Sometimes we do some pretty messed up stuff. Sometimes we have jealousy and fear. Sometimes we have hatred. Sometimes we refuse to forgive. I'm probably wrong. Nothing human is foreign to me. Whatever you feel is human, a human instinct. Doesn't mean that's who you are. It means that it's a passing feeling, a passing emotion. And yet it's sometimes so dark that we refuse to own it and we shove it aside, or we think we do. But what we do, as Carl Jung said, is we stuff it in this big dark bag that we drag behind us throughout our lives. Also, the shadow is all the great stuff about us that we refuse to own, that we can't recognize. So we project it to other people. These are our heroes, the myths. Joseph Campbell talks quite a bit about that. Let's see. Excuse me. Odom says, happy Monday to Destiny Forever Walks. I won something from the J channel. That's awesome. And you know what? Well deserved, because you put the work in. You were and are, because you mentioned that you're still getting the reps, repping out. So good for you and well deserved. So shadow work is all about becoming whole, accepting the dark stuff about us as well as fully embracing the light, and knowing that those that we worship, those that we idolize, those that have these qualities, heroic qualities that we admire so much, those are our qualities that we are projecting upon someone else. As well, when we look at all the people that we truly, truly hate, it's our shadow being redirected on them. Not saying that these people also don't have qualities that might be loathsome. Am I saying that right? But if we can recognize it, it means it's also ours as well. The only way to deal with that is to become fully human. Accept it all. Accept it all. Accept it all. Nothing human is foreign to me. When we do that, we're free from the shadow. We're whole and complete. So that is the shadow, and a little bit Carl Jung, but again, most of it based on shamanic practices. That in shamanism, there's Carl Jung would recommend therapy to incorporate the shadow in our life. Not wrong, obviously. Therapy, I think, can also be limiting. I'm not saying don't get therapy at all, because it's been immensely helpful for so many people. Um, at the same time, though, you're given these perimeters that therapists have to work through, they have to work with, and they can't go around it. Shamanism, you work with what you have, you work with whatever tools available, including therapy, including psychotropic substances, using plant medicine, using mushrooms, peyote, mescaline, whatever works for the situation. Um, DMT. DMT had remarkable work with Mike Tyson, who for the longest time said it, he felt his ego diminished to the point where the thought of fighting someone, professionally or otherwise, was just completely alien to him. He couldn't even imagine it. Since then, the ego has crept back, but he still has maintained a very peaceful balance in his life lately. So, as well, living a yogic lifestyle really through meditation and again breath work, and we're going to circle our way back to the breath. um, Help us incorporate the shadow aspect into our lives. Now, I would imagine that Destiny knows quite a bit more about Genesis than I do. Um, let's see. So we're going to Google up Genesis again. Anyway, what I really love about Genesis is it incorporates my love of cosmology, how the universe came to be. And you can read it as a story, but as every story, every metaphor, it's based upon some type of truth. If you read the Zohar, which is the mystical Kabbalah, one of their sacred books, and it deals with the cosmology of the universe from a Hebrew perspective, and it weaves stories of Genesis within. I have several copies laying around. You see that how close it is, how similar it is to the Big Bang, and the Big Bang itself is a story. There wasn't a Big Bang explosion. There was just a vast and infinitely fast expansion. And I always wonder when I think about the Big Bang, beginning with that singularity of energy, smaller than the smallest particle of all, and it got that sudden urge to expand. What gave it the urge? What whispered to that singularity expand, that made it expand, causing an entire universe to come into existence? According to yogic and Vedic cosmology, it was just a repetition that the universe itself is a breath. The universe comes into existence through the exhalation of the absolute. The universe disappears from existence through the inhalation of the absolute. And so it goes. The expansion, the breath, the inhalation, the exhalation of the absolute itself. And who's to say? And again, none of that is counter to modern day cosmology. There's theories. Astrophysicists have theories of the same thing of the universe coming into existence and going out of existence. That there, instead of a big bang, there are just big banging relentlessly over and over again. So Genesis, in view of cosmology, to me is just a beautiful, beautiful story. But again, Yogic and Vedic have their own cosmology, very similar. The Old Testament, Genesis, um, as well as, I say, the Taoist, the Buddhist, um, and some of the Native American, particularly the Hopi, have beautiful cosmology. Let's see. Destiny says that makes sense, and yet many people do not know or understand the ways of the universe, Eric. Um, you know what? Because I think I'm going to tie this into the fifth limb of yoga. The fifth limb of yoga is pratyahara, which is literally withdrawing the senses. That we come into the world, eyes, ears, taste, sense of smell, touch. Um, we have an outer focus. And since when we're born, we don't have um, nothing has a label yet. So we're set to explore. Everything is new. Everything we touch is this new sensation. Everything we smell. And we don't smell something and say, well, that's breakfast. We don't touch something and say that's a desk. Nothing has a name. Everything's brand new. Um, so we're going through our own cosmology at a time. But also, because we explore the outer world for so long, by the time we reach a certain age, we're focused on that outer world. We have no need to turn within. And therefore, what's the point of looking within to discover the universe? When we think of the infinite, we think of reaching and reaching and reaching. The infinite is always out there. And yet, by definition, infinite goes in every direction at once, meaning that we are just as infinite as our reach out there, but we never turn within. Pratyahara, the fifth limb of yoga, urges us to close down the senses and explore the universe within. And it's there that we discover that it's all seamless. It's just the universe. I always love sometimes in my early morning walks, and again, it's still dark and the stars are out and the moon is high in the sky. And I reach my hands up just to get that sense that not that I'm reaching into the universe, but the universe is reaching down into me as well. That there's no point where my hands leave off and the universe begins. I'm not holding the universe, I am universing. There is no point where the universe leaves off and I begin. Can you show me a line between the universe and my hand? I think it was Destiny who said the lovely line, one song, uni, verse, harmony. That one song is Om. That's the cosmology of existence right there. That's our own cosmology. And again, it's a story because as the Tao Te Ching says, beginning of the Tao that can be told is not the true Tao. The only way to know it is to just experience it, to turn inwards, to shut down the senses. Several ways of doing it. I've demonstrated in some of my workouts the bee's breath, where we're sealing off the ears, the eyes, the nose, and the mouth, and we hum. The humming attunes us into the vibration of the universe, as well as it helps shut down the mind. So now everything is shut off. The mind, the ears, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and our thoughts. Everything because of the humming. and Yoga Nidra, which I talk about quite a bit, where we are guided into an exploration of our inner universe, of the universe within. Destiny says, let's see. I want to catch up on some of these comments. Destiny's saying, Odom says, doing great. Most is starting to leave out now. Leave out. And that Destiny says, that's great, Odom. You're a great gardener. He certainly is. I was watching his berry plants video last night before I went to bed. And Odom says, thank you, Destiny. It's really my calling. I feel so at peace in my garden. It's so obvious, too, Odom, that you're in your element. And Destiny says that explains that you are fulfilling and walking your purpose. In yogic terms, we would say that Odom is living his dharma. But, not only that, Odom, as I mentioned before, not just the gardening itself, but the fact that you're sharing it with others, that you're sharing that love is part of your dharma as well. Destiny says, we are the universe is us. That would be hard to explain by many people. It is, and that's why I think the best way is just to experience it, to do the bee's breath, Brahmari breath, to do the Yoga Nidra, to do, I've done the headless experiments, where you literally begin to see yourself, not even begin, it's a sudden realization that you are the universe, that when you point in this direction, all you find is space, but it's an aware capacity, it's an aware space that is literally containing the entire universe. It's the essence of Zen, actually. Odom says, yes, that's all I ever wanted to be, is a grower, but life and kids. Hey, you're growing kids, Odom. Everywhere's a garden. Life is a garden. The universe is a garden. And not only are we the tenders of the garden, we're the seeds themselves, we're the sprouts, we're the plants, we're the whole thing, we're the field. And the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that, I want to make sure that I get it right. We are the knower and the field. The field and the knower. One of my all-time favorite. Well, for one, it's been nonstop reading of the Bhagavad Gita for decades. A book I always turn to in all of its form. And here is a translation, beginning with, in simple terms, the field may be considered the body, and the soul as the knower of the field. However, the field is actually much more than just the physical body. It includes the mind, intellect, ego, and all other components of material energy that are part of our personality. So we can truly say that the field is everything, and that we are the knower of the field, which is why Odom is such a great gardener, because when he's there, when he's in his smaller field, there's that subtle realization that he's exactly where he's in the center of the universe. What's said, quote, center everywhere, circumference nowhere. Might be the other way around, circumference everywhere, center nowhere. Because everywhere we are is the very center of the universe itself. Everywhere. When Odom is in his garden, he's in the center of the universe, exactly where he needs to be, doing exactly what he should be doing. Um, Odom says, I was a very mean person until I felt gardening. It changed my life. That's amazing to hear. For one, you seem like such a gentle person. Um, Gentleness in the truest sense. Uh, when I say gentle, I never mean. Um, a lot of people have this image of someone being gentle in this, meek way. My father was an extremely gentle person, but he served in the Navy in World War II. He lived through some tough times, depression. He worked in the steel mills in Western Pennsylvania, putting himself through college along with the GI Bill. Um, to be gentle means you got to be tough as hell, and I get that feeling. Whenever I watch your video, whenever I get the opportunity to interact with you, that there is that gentleness, the true gentleness of also being tough as hell. Um, anyway, with that being the case, I'm certainly glad that you did find gardening, and it just shows that amazingness of one, living your dharma, what it can do, and two, the power of putting your hands in the earth, feeling something real, of looking at something that you helped spring into life. Absolutely amazing. So, all right, guys, with that, I'm going to shut things down. I feel like I was all over the place talking today, um, but it was still a great talk because, for one, I love going all over the place. It just reflects my interest. Um, and it's just always fun to explore wherever the conversation goes. Destiny says, Odom, you are a lotus flower. Beautiful analogy. You will bloom. You will bloom many in all areas of your life. I agree with that. And again, a really beautiful analogy. Um, I love the lotus flower. Such a sacred symbol. The fact that it blooms in enlightenment from the swamp of life, from the roots in mud. Dusty says, thanks for sharing, Odom Homestead. It's your season walking it. It is. I'm looking forward to seeing more of stuff from Odom, especially now in spring, and just watching things grow. Um, I'd love, hopefully, you'll do some like before and after, before and during. There was a book, the I can't remember the name. It's a work of fiction, and it's about trees. Beautiful book. The over overseer, the oversoul, the overstory, I think. And it begins with a man who took a photo of his tree. I think like every month for his entire life, and then his son and grandson did the same thing. Um, and to just witness that changing. It was a chestnut tree, which have suffered a horrible blight across the United States. So, um, anyway, I'll have to look that up, and if I remember, I'll post a link for it. Destiny says, Odom says, thank you. Have a blessed day, everyone. You too, Odom. And Destiny says, thanks for everything, Eric. Enjoyed the conversation. I did too, and thank you. And Destiny says, thanks to everyone. Blessings and much love. Enjoy the rest of your day. You too. Thank you, everyone, for stopping by. And one last thing. Odom says, okay, will do. I never know what people really want to see. Thanks for that, Eric. Man, I want to see your garden and how you go about it, and I want to see how it becomes. I want to see the bloom of its existence from bare earth to tilled to seed to first sprout to the harvest. The whole story. Not only that, it tells the story of Odom, and it tells the story of Odom doing what he loves. So it would be extremely beautiful to see the whole thing. And Destiny again sums it up perfectly and beautifully. Odom showed them you, everything else will manifest. And again, perfectly said. So, last minute wisdom from Destiny. Thank you. Odom says, okay, I never till to bow down the soil. Um, well, however you do it, I probably used the wrong term. I just remembered gardening with my parents, and they would give me a hoe and say, till the garden, till the earth. Um, so I'm interested in how you do it. That's the thing. Guys, gotta go. I will see everyone. Actually, later, I'm going to do my live reading, and then we'll be back tomorrow for some burpees. Take care, guys.